Alright, so let's talk about quads versus planes, fixed wing versus multi-rotors, Betaflight versus Inav, Betaflight versus Inav, all that kind of stuff. So, I have been flying planes and multi-rotors on and off for around 5 or 6 years. And I kind of go back and forth in cycles as far as I want to do. Funny enough, it pretty much revolves around long range at the time because I got into quads, then I got into long range with Bixler 3, and then back into quads, and pretty much dealt with only quads and multi-rotors for years. Last year had an excursion with this. I can't even get it into the camera, but this is a Sweep Wings Flinch V2. And I don't even think that I have a video on it on YouTube. I might have like a build video, but I didn't really know a lot about wings and all that per se. And the experience pretty much was horrible, and that's the end of that. So then in September, I was at FPV Fest, and I ended up getting one of these, which you've seen on the channel. It won't all fit in the camera, but this is the Ready-Made RC Recruit, AR Wing, whatever you want to call it, and had fun flying it around for the rest of the fall and winter and stuff like that. And then Crossfire came out, back into quads, long range, having fun, and then I decided to strip everything out of there, put in the Crossfire and the Inav, which led to the Nano Goblin, which is easier to transport, smaller size, everything, even though I still like flying that one just as well. It's kind of two different things, even though they pretty much both have the same purpose. So the whole point is really about crossing over from this to this, or this to this. Now, at some point, I think everybody is going to, even if you haven't yet. And there's a lot of people a few months ago that were all hyped on Crossfire and Team Black Sheep, and they ended up buying the Caparina 2s because it was Team Black Sheep. It's going to be great, even though they had no wing or fixed wing experience at all. Some made it through, some ended up selling it, and some ended up breaking theirs in half because they didn't laminate it. So we'll start with the whole fixed wing thing and all that stuff. The great thing about fixed wings is that once you get these things up and flying, they are super fun. You only need like 1 or 2 batteries, because if you get the right battery, they can fly for as many battery packs as you probably own and take with you to the field all day for your multi-rotors. With the Inav stuff, you know, you have return to home, which works most of the time. Crossfire is always dependable. And then, of course, you have different things with the flight controllers and all that kind of stuff. And camera setups you can do. I've got a split mini in here, so I get HD recording and all that stuff. I've got videos on this. Flying far away and doing all that kind of stuff. It's been a late winter project here, so I really haven't got to do a whole lot that I want to do with it yet, but that's coming. But a lot of different manufacturers are jumping on the whole Inav bandwagon and are making their own type of boards. Some are better than others, and sometimes you just have to stick with a proven method. Good thing about fixed wings is when they break, you can glue them back together with some foam tack. You can spar them up by putting extra carbon fiber rods in here and stuff like that, and taping them up and all kinds of good stuff, and just making them whole again, and they will fly almost as good as they did when they were brand new. So this one's covered with tape. I've cut this back end off here 3 times to install the flight controller because there's just no room in there to work. But the thing flies beautifully. I love it, and it's cheap. It's like $85 all up, and then everybody's got FPV gear laying around, and you throw a GPS on there and you're set. The one problem is Inav is not what everybody hopes it is, if that even sounds right. Everything works pretty much the way it should. There are bugs here and there, just like there are bugs in Betaflight. But a lot of people go to Inav because it has the return to home features and all that kind of stuff that works 99% of the time. Betaflight doesn't. They are working on it, and if anybody makes it happen first, where you're going to have a great flying mini quad with return to home, it's going to be Betaflight, just because the Inav code for multi-rotors, from all the research and videos that I've seen, is no better than my Eagle Tree Vector did on a multi-rotor 5 years ago. I see them wandering all over the place. There's just no acro ability or anything like that at all. So don't even go there. So maybe get back to the different quads. This is, of course, my Reverb here, and this is running regular Betaflight. I have another one that's running the Helio RC that has the Helio spring specialized Betaflight hex with the IMUF gyro dual processor thing and all that kind of stuff. And it is an awesome quad to fly, that is for sure. But we can only fly for so long and so far with these things, and that's why we go to the fixed wing models eventually, because we want to go further, we want to fly longer, so on and so forth. These freestyle quads like this, though, this is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of losing its luster, at least for me. I have this and I have the Helio, and I fly them, and really I just fly the Helio because I enjoy playing with the technology. This Reverb here, you can see, is, I don't even think it has dirt on it. It's got like a little bit of dirt on the landing pads, and that's about it. Basically just because the freestyle flying and stuff like that just isn't, I don't know, it's just not what it was to me at one time. So I like the mid-range flying and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have like super awesome terrain and mountains to dive and all that kind of stuff, so I have to improvise with what I got. So when I do want to do that mid-range type of flying, then I break this out, which is the 5.5 Proton by Flight Club FPV. And this is my favorite flying quad. Believe it or not, it has Betaflight 3.2.2 on it, and it will probably take a miracle for me to flash anything else on it. This just flies and produces video and does exactly what I want it to do, and I refuse to change it. The only way I would ever change it, like I said, if there was better features that came along, this and that. Got the run cam micro Eagle Pro, Eagle 2, whatever on there. It's pretty light for a 5.5-inch build. Mike's frame designs and everything with the butter mounts and TPU mounts and just all that stuff is just awesome. I love it. Then I have this big ol' heavy Ethics Canasti 6-inch frame, which is actually a pretty cool frame, and it produces pretty good video. With Betaflight, I'm even able to run unbalanced HQ 6045 carbon props on here, but this thing is a brick, especially on 5S. But with the T-Motor F80 2200s, it still hauls really good. I mean, it really goes fast. But it basically is just a 6-inch freestyle quad. I've taken crossfire off of it and everything like that because nobody can afford to put crossfire on everything. So it really kind of has no purpose. It just kind of hangs on my wall right now. So I'm kind of looking around and trying to figure out which way I want to go with my fleet next and what I want to do, because I basically have two quads between this and this that I can take parts off of and do something with. You know, we'll see what happens. And of course, don't forget we got the little babyhawk-r here, which is just super fun, and everybody should have one of these to fly around. You just can't have enough fun with this little thing. So, but lessons learned between going back and forth between the two. I mean, definitely, I think everybody should experience both at some point in their hobby life. Quads, to me, are a lot easier to deal with and play with, even though you've got 4 motors and 4 ESCs and everything like that. When you crash them, it stinks because it's hard to repair. But when something goes bad on this, in my case, it's been the flight controller. basically it's almost like I could build 2 quads in the same amount of time it takes to replace that flight controller, because of where it's at and having to rip everything apart, glue it, all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of some food for thought for people that are thinking about going back and forth and trying something different, whether it be wings or quads or whatever. You also want to think about, again, what components you're putting in this stuff. You know, I went with the original Airbot omnibuses versus the knockoff ones from Banggood, because I heard that there are problems. And also, you know, when it comes to like little things like GPSs, this one obviously is a lot smaller than this one here, but this thing picks up GPS 13, 14 satellites in almost an instant and takes very little warm-up time. And this one here sometimes won't even get 13 or 14 satellites in an entire flight. So that will lead to issues with return to home and everything else that I have found as well. And then there's also things like running 5.8 video, 2.4. I've got 2.4 on the AR wing, 5.8 on here. In my environment, they pretty much do the same, because with trees and everything that's around, I have to fly at some kind of altitude to really get usable video anyway. So that's kind of out of the question for me. Depending upon where you live, you might be all right. So that's pretty much it. That's just a little bit of rambling and talk between the two, and some experiences that I'm having, and things that are going good and things that are going not so good. The weather is not so good. It's April 15th, 16th, and it's 70 yesterday, and it's been raining for 2 days straight, and now it's going to snow tomorrow. So I guess that's why it gives you plenty of time to think about things and how you want to enjoy the warm coming weather and the spring. So that's it. Talk to you later.